here again. I have a video. I haven't done anything in this category for quite a while, but I found this really interesting story, and it's kind of one of those stories you think, well, if things are really going to change, or really if people really are going to insist that they believe in the movement, or that the murder of innocent unarmed people in their own homes, or people that have committed minor offenses get extremely long sentences, and that, you know, justice should be served, and that, you know, then this whole Black Lives Matter movement and anything that comes out of that with regard to the unjust treatment of African Americans, or ADOS, or some Israelites, however you consider yourself, then these kind of things would not continue to happen, or would be looked at from state to state, from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, as an offense to basic human rights and humanity. So I wanted to just bring this forth. So I'm just going to read the article. I'm going to leave some links to the laws that they're using to implement this very harsh punishment to this man, this black man, this African American man, and how it went all the way to the Louisiana Supreme Court, and they upheld this cruel sentence for this man's minor offense. So this is in my what is happening series, and this one right here, I'm gonna name it Does Black Lives Really Matter? Hallelujah. CNN reported on August 6, 2020, it says, Louisiana Supreme Court upholds black man's Wayne Bryant, 62, life sentence for stealing hedge clippers more than 20 years ago. A black Louisiana man, deep South, this is the state that brought us David Duke as well, so will spend the rest of his life in prison for stealing hedge clippers. You know those things you see the lawn service people using? Yeah, those. 20 years he served so far. After the Louisiana State Court denied his request to have his sentence overturned last week. Wayne Bryant, 62, was convicted in 1997 on one count of attempted simple burglary. In his appeal to the Second Circuit Court of Louisiana in 2018, his attorney, Peggy Sullivan, wrote that Bryant contends that his life sentence is unconstitutionally harsh and excessive. And any person that, in my opinion, any person that is even remotely human, remotely believes that human beings can learn from their mistakes, and that they don't need to be incarcerated, to be used as free labor, to be abused, to be labeled as a menace to society, when something as simple as what he did landed him where he is today. So last week, though the state Supreme Court disagreed with five justices choosing to uphold the life sentence, the lone dissenter in the decision was Supreme Court Chief Justice Bernett Johnson, who wrote that the sentence imposed is excessive and disproportionate to the offense the defendant committed. Johnson is the only female and black person on the court. The rest of the justices are white men. So this is why you see people disbelieving and having discussions that this Black Lives Matter as a result of the atrocities that were committed to other African Americans in this country in the last 6 months is just an illusion. It's a distraction, that they have no intention of actually implementing laws and policies to just do an overhaul of the justice system in this country. And this is a perfect example of an opportunity. This is a perfect opportunity for people that pretend that they're serious about making changes in this country. And these Supreme Court justices of Louisiana had an opportunity to look at that, look at the state of this country, and have some kind of humanity in them. You would think some spring of humanity would pop up in these gentlemen, and I use that word loosely, and know that what they're doing is unrighteous. But because they are reprobate, because they are inhabited with, they have a hatred for ADOS, or African American men, women, and children, specifically men, and Israel, the true Israel, then they see this as just. They see this as, well, we have to uphold the law, when they should clearly look at this and say, we need to change this. We are a governing body that has the power to change these type of laws, and they chose not to. So, and also, you know, you just have to, you know that in this country, when you're talking about a system riddled, that is stood up on the backs of ADOS, Israelites, and has been built on the blood, sweat, and tears of our ancestors and our relatives here currently, you would think that this would have really made a difference. It doesn't make a difference. What people are touting now as issues of, you know, humanity, and, you know, just being righteous people, and just being human, just having basic human rights extended to people that don't look like you, that don't look like me, you know, it's all a farce. And this is a perfect example of people that are in these positions of power to make change in this country, how they are staunch racists, haters of what is right, haters of righteousness, and they would swear they were good Christian people. And they are good Christian people, because this is what Christianity was built on. Hallelujah. So, and this man would have been a prime candidate for the governor of Louisiana to pardon President Trump, to step in, number 45, to step in and say, okay, let me show the country that, you know, regardless of what I say, I am a human being. I do believe that all people have a right to, you know, have a life that's where they're not incarcerated. This man has served plenty of time based on his previous convictions and the conviction that got him life. I'll just keep reading. It said, this sentence is sanctioned under the habitual offender law, Johnson noted in her dissent, meaning that Bryant's previous criminal history supports the sentence. And I'm going to put a link in the description box where you can go and read that law. Bryant was convicted in 1979. This is his previous convictions. Bryant was convicted in 1979 for attempted armed robbery, in 1987 for possession of stolen things, attempted forgery of a check worth $150 in 1989, and for simple burglary of an inhabited dwelling in 1992, all before his 1997 arrest for the failed attempt at stealing hedge clippers. But Johnson also mentioned the cost associated with Bryant's sentence, writing that in his 23 years in prison, he has cost the Louisiana taxpayers over $500,000. So you know that to uphold this sentence, it's really not about justice. It's about destroying this man, about just keeping him caged up like a wild animal, and using his further using his body for the gain of the state. somewhere in here money is being made outside of this $500,000. Now this $500,000 taxpayer money that's being used, they see that as a drop in the bucket when it comes to making sure they keep this man, a man of African descent, okay, African American, whose ancestors were slaves, keeping him locked up, and they don't care how much they spend. That's how deep-seated and genetically embedded this hatred is for our nation. If he lives another 20 years, Louisiana taxpayers will have paid almost $1 million to punish Mr. Bryant for his failed effort to steal a set of hedge clippers, she wrote. Bryant's sentence is a modern manifestation of pig laws. I'm going to leave a link to that in the description box so you can understand that as well, which were created in the years after Reconstruction, Johnson also said. These laws criminalize recently emancipated African American citizens by introducing extreme sentences for petty theft associated with poverty, she wrote. This man's life sentence for a failed attempt to steal a set of 3 hedge clippers is grossly out of proportion to the crime and serves no legitimate penal purpose, Johnson wrote. While Johnson said she would grant the appeal, the 5 justices denied it and 1 abstained. So 1 was a coward, 5 denied it, and she said that she would grant the appeal. So there was just, he just, even though they ran it all the way up the chain, to the Supreme Court of Louisiana, those men probably, in their 60s and 70s or older, that were born, in that time frame where the oppression and murder and killing and false imprisonment of black folks was just it's like breathing, was just natural. But this is something, these are stories that are still going on. They're not just stories, but these are things that are still going on in this country. And I actually feel like, these are the kind of things that people need to consider when they go to vote. When they, you have to really, really look at the track record of those people if you're going to participate in voting, you really need to look at where they come from. And I urge you all, before you cast your vote this November for either Republican or Democrat or whomever, whatever party you are affiliated with, that I really encourage you to really look at how this person, whether in their private life or in politics, their political career or their business career or their career, right? How they navigated performing their duties, their job, and how it affected the impoverished, the African Americans in particular, and vote according to that. And if you find that there are no viable candidates, I encourage you to abstain from voting. Most people think, well, if you don't vote, well, we voted. Obama was in office for 8 years. He did absolutely nothing for the black community. And if you, in the last, before March, before Corona set in, when you talked, where they were all the Democrats, Democrats that wanted to, get on the ticket for this next presidential election, they absolutely did not want to commit to doing anything for the African American community. And that being said, why would you vote for any of them? That's all I have to say. Shalom, Israel.